Have you ever noticed something strange? The more important a task is, the easier it becomes to avoid. You tell yourself, I'll start after lunch. Then, maybe tonight. And somehow, it becomes tomorrow. Before you realize it, days have passed. You know exactly what you should do, but you still can't make yourself begin. Most people call this laziness. But what if that's completely wrong? What if procrastination isn't a discipline problem, but a psychological defense mechanism? Because the truth is, your brain isn't trying to destroy your future. It's trying to protect you from something much more immediate: discomfort. And once you understand how that works, procrastination starts to make perfect sense. Every day, millions of people promise themselves they'll start a new project, a new habit, a new chapter. But when the moment arrives, something strange happens. Instead of doing the important task, they suddenly feel the urge to clean their desk, reply to old messages, watch one more video, check social media, or do almost anything else. It doesn't feel like a decision. It feels automatic. Then comes the guilt. I wasted another day. Why can't I just do it? Maybe I'm simply lazy. But the real damage goes deeper than one unfinished task. Over time, people stop trusting themselves. Not because they aren't capable of succeeding, but because they no longer believe they'll follow through. And that's where procrastination becomes dangerous. It slowly changes the way you see yourself. You stop saying, I haven't finished it yet, and start saying, I'm the kind of person who never finishes anything. Once you believe that, every future task becomes even harder to begin. Imagine you're standing in front of two doors. Behind the first door is something difficult: a report, an exam, a project, a conversation you've been avoiding. You know opening that door could improve your future. But right now, it feels uncomfortable. Behind the second door is something easy: a funny video, a quick scroll through your phone, one more episode, one more game. Your brain doesn't carefully compare the long-term rewards behind each door. Instead, it asks a much simpler question: how will this make me feel right now? And that changes everything. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. Long before humans worried about deadlines, careers, or unfinished projects, the brain had a much simpler job: avoid pain, seek comfort. That system helped our ancestors survive. But today, it can treat emotional discomfort almost like physical danger. When a task feels stressful, uncertain, confusing, or overwhelming, your brain quietly says, not now. Not because the task is impossible, but because avoiding it feels better, at least for a moment. And that moment of relief becomes a reward. Every time you delay, your brain learns something. Avoiding discomfort works. The problem is, the relief only lasts for a few minutes. The task is still there, and the stress usually returns even stronger. That's why procrastination becomes a loop. The more you avoid the task, the harder it begins to feel. And the harder it feels, the more your brain wants to avoid it again. You're not trapped because you're lazy. You're trapped because your brain has learned the wrong lesson. If procrastination were really caused by laziness, you would procrastinate on everything. But you don't. You can spend hours watching videos, talking with friends, organizing your room, playing a game, or researching something you genuinely enjoy. So the problem isn't that you have no energy. The problem is where your emotions are directing that energy. Think about the task you've been avoiding. Now ask yourself one question: what emotion does this task create? For many people, it isn't boredom. It's fear. Fear of failing. fear of making a mistake, fear that the result won't be good enough. Sometimes, it's even fear of succeeding, because success may bring higher expectations, more responsibility, more pressure. But there is something even deeper. Your brain doesn't fear effort. It fears uncertainty. Think about it. You may spend 3 hours playing a difficult game. You learn complicated strategies. You fail repeatedly. You start again. Yet the effort doesn't always feel unbearable. Why? Because the rules are clear. The goal is clear. And every small action gives you immediate feedback. Now compare that with writing a book, starting a business, applying for a new job, or sending an important email. You don't know if it will work. You don't know how people will respond. You don't know whether your effort will be enough. And to your brain, uncertainty can feel more threatening than effort itself. Your brain doesn't always analyze those fears logically. It simply notices one thing. This feels uncomfortable. Then it chooses the fastest escape. Not forever. Just for now. That's why procrastination is rarely about the task itself. It's about escaping the emotion attached to the task. And the longer you avoid it, the larger that emotion becomes. A simple email starts feeling impossible. A small project becomes overwhelming. Not because the task changed, but because your mind kept adding emotional weight to it. Every day you wait, your imagination quietly makes the mountain taller. Until one day, you're no longer fighting the work. You're fighting the story you've built around the work. And that is the real trap. Most people think they need more motivation. But motivation isn't what they're missing. They're missing the ability to stay with discomfort, without immediately running away from it. Because growth has never required you to feel comfortable. It requires you to understand that discomfort doesn't mean danger. So, if procrastination isn't caused by laziness, how do you stop it? Most people try to fight procrastination with motivation. They wait until they feel inspired, confident, ready. But feelings are unpredictable. If you only act when you feel motivated, your progress will always depend on your mood. Instead, make the first step so small that your brain has almost nothing to fear. Don't tell yourself, I'm going to write for 3 hours. Tell yourself, I'm going to write 1 sentence. Don't say, I'm going to exercise for an hour. Say, I'm only going to put on my shoes. Don't say, I need to finish this entire project. Say, I'm going to open the document and work for 2 minutes. It may sound too simple, but that is exactly why it works. Because the hardest part of most tasks isn't doing the work. It's crossing the emotional barrier before the work begins. Once you start, your brain receives new information. The task isn't as painful as it imagined. The fear begins to shrink. The uncertainty becomes clearer. And the next step becomes easier to see. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. You don't need to eliminate discomfort before you act. You need to act, so your brain can learn that discomfort is survivable. Every small step sends a new message to your mind. I can do difficult things. And over time, that message becomes part of your identity. You stop becoming someone who waits for motivation. You become someone who moves, even when motivation never arrives. Maybe you'll procrastinate again tomorrow. And that's okay. Because now, you understand something most people never realize. You were never fighting laziness. You were fighting discomfort. The discomfort of uncertainty. The discomfort of failure. The discomfort of not knowing what will happen next. But uncomfortable feelings are not commands. And they are not proof that you should stop. Your future isn't built only on the days you feel motivated. It's built in the moments when you choose to begin, even when you don't feel ready. Because every time you take one small step, you teach your brain a new lesson. Not that life is easy, but that discomfort does not control you. Procrastination doesn't steal your time first. It steals your belief in yourself. And the moment you begin, you start taking it back. But this raises another question. If motivation feels so powerful at the beginning, why does it disappear after only a few days? Why do we begin with excitement, but end with excuses? That is exactly what we'll explore in the next video.